Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today's April 30th, 2018. We got a decent little show for you here. Some few kit announcements, a little teaser from BMAX, as well as this week's kit releases, which were, of course, the basically the stuff that composes the end of the April kit release series. This is take 2 for this video, which is why it's late. I recorded a whole video. And then for some reason it wouldn't save. So if you're watching this, obviously the second take saved, but I have no idea what happened with the first one. It was some technical hiccup within my the software that I use to both record and edit this. So it's sort of like one system does everything, and that way it's very integrated. It's very convenient when it works, but it did not. So up front, I would like to say to all the people out there that keep insisting that Revell went bankrupt, if it was up to me, I would have Ed Sexton come over and punch you in the gonads, as it were, because, of course, that's not what happened. I have just been inundated with the last week or so of just post after post after post on Facebook and forums and everywhere else about how Revell went bankrupt, which of course isn't true. Habaco, the company that owned Revell, went bankrupt, not Revell itself. And it usually is then carried on by well, that's because they made too many of this, which is usually 57 Chevys and 32 Fords, and didn't make enough this, which is usually that person's subgenre of build interest. They didn't make enough modern top fuel cars. They didn't make enough modern funny cars. They didn't make enough drag cars. They didn't make enough this. They didn't make whatever this person's pet collection is. So, in that spirit, Revell went bankrupt because they didn't make enough Japanese race cars. So, please stop putting that worldview out there. It is wildly incorrect, both in its factualness, in the sense that Revell, of course, didn't go bankrupt, and, of course, the idea that you personally have any idea how to run a model company is... You guys have heard me say it before. There's a large group of people out there that can bankrupt a model company in 6 months or less, and they have all wormed their way out of the woodwork in the last 3 weeks since, of course, Revell USA closed its doors after its sale to the German conglomerate, as it were. Hopefully we'll find out some more about what's going on with Revell in the future next week, or it should be the week after at that point, because May 8th is the day the sale was supposed to close. Revell of Germany is operating as usual. They released a few kits this week over in Asia that were, I think, probably out in Europe a little bit earlier. And then they have pre-orders up on things like the Pirelli edition of the Golf GTI kit and things like that. So Revell of Germany continues to steam on. And from everything we've seen, at least from initial press releases from Revell of Germany and things like that, it appears that the whole of everything is going to be run basically by Revell of Germany. It's going to be managed and funded by this excuse me, Blitz Venture Capital Partners, but Revell of Germany, or now just Revell in Germany, is going to be what runs everything. So we'll wait and see what they plan to do with the U.S. market in terms of not only just importing their own stuff here, but as far as specifically doing things with the tooling that they now own for Revell US, as well as the number of kit releases that were planned that did not happen, in terms of excuse me, the Grease Ford and the '69 Mustang. We do know that the Ford GT Le Mans car will come out as a Revell of Germany kit for sure. That was already a planned release as far as Revell of Germany was concerned, so obviously they're going to go forward with that. And the tooling was already done anyway, so it's doesn't cost them anything technically to release that kit. And with the price that they paid, of course, for the Revell US licensing and the Revell US tooling, if the Ford Le Mans car sold well, it would pay for all that. So it's a win-win-win-win-win as far as they're concerned. And then, of course, the main thing to consider within the kit releases that we knew of coming, several of those are Ford and General Motors releases, and of course Ford and General Motors are, pitching their little bitch about their licensing transferring, although now, ironically, the licensing is transferring to a company that already holds licensing with them, so it probably isn't going to be that big of a deal in the end. So anyway, let's talk about kit announcements here. Several of these are just going to be restocks for Aoshima for June, so these are nothing new, just refilling the coffers cars, as it were. And they're going to be the Subaru Sandbar pickup truck with the World Rally Blue limited edition. That kit is molded in blue, but that was like a special run of, well, they did 1,500 and they ended up doing 1,500 more. So it was a limited run of 3,000 of the little K trucks that were painted specifically like the rally cars as far as the paint color went, and some interior bits and pieces. Reissue of the 1998 Toyota Chaser Tourer 5, reissue of the fabulous VIP Toyota Celsior, reissue of the 1982 Datsun Custom Truck, which of course is the lowrider, reissue of the Ings tuner version of the 2007 Subaru WRX STI, that is the car with the blue box art, reissue of the Meister S1Rs and the VX S110s, those are VIP wheels, reissue of the Yayoi, the Longchamp XR4, and the Hayashi 14-inch wheels, reissue of the Lamborghini Huracan, and well as its Huracan detail upset, and a reissue of the Lamborghini Aventador Super Veloce. So the Lamborghinis continue to sell well for Aoshima. That's not their, they're not really focused on the supercar stuff right now. They're getting a little bit back to their basic roots of doing Japanese vehicles. We saw that with, of course, with the Pro Boxes, and now we're getting the 4-door 25 GT R34 Skyline. They had not necessarily a big shakeup, but one of the major players and pushers for the supercar series in terms, because it would expand their sales internationally. Of course, left the company probably a year ago now, and we're still waiting to see him develop his own company that he's working on. It's been producing a lot of 1/72nd scale sci-fi tanks from a I don't know if it's necessarily an anime series, a movie, or just a video game, but it's, there's been a bunch of releases for that, and waiting to see his automotive stuff come out. The other announcement, and this is actually a legitimately new announcement, is over at Ebro. They finally have put up for pre-order their Citroen DS21. This is the modified reissue of their DS19 kit. This has the composite headlight covers as opposed to the twin beams that the DS19 has. DS21 is, I should have looked this up because I was stumbled over this in the original recording, and then I forgot to look it up. It's just been a busy week. Let's see here. Citroen DS. The DS, let's see here. I want to get this right. I can't find what I'm looking for in this article. DS21 was introduced in 1965, and the original Citroen DS19 came out in 1955. So the 21 was an innovation of the car 10 years later, and so most of the parts of this are relatively the same. There are, of course, like I said, upgraded parts for the DS21. This is going to be a wallet drainer in terms of the price. It is going to run you a solid $75 minimum, and that is going to be direct import from Japan. We don't want to talk about what that's going to end up costing here in the United States. But it is a very niche, low-volume kit. So when you're dealing with things like that, where you're talking about kits that are only going to be made in the low thousands, probably below 5,000s as far as the run goes, because, I mean, they know how many DS19s they sold, so they could probably have a pretty good idea how many DS21s they can sell. It is a very low-volume kit, and this is what you start dealing with injection molding that is at resin prices, because how many of them are they going to sell? So they have to obviously make their money back for the tooling. So it is what it is in that sense. But be forewarned, it's not a $30 kit by any stretch of the imagination. Anybody who has a DS19 knows that wasn't a $20 kit either. That was like a $65 kit when it came out. So there's been a $10 price increase in the last 3 years. You have to be the one that determines how much you want one, basically. The other thing they announced is also a reissue with a very little bit of tooling put into it, basically a sign board that goes on the roof, and that is a reissue of their Renault 4 Fourgonette. This is going to be reissued primarily as a service vehicle for Renault dealerships. Basically, like what would come out, I guess, to fix your broke down Renault at your house or on the highway. I'm not really sure how this would work. I'm not French, and I make no claims to France knowledge. The kit came out originally. It had like a dealer livery, like sort of like a parts truck, if you will. Anybody here in the United States, Canada, anywhere, really. In the northern half of North America, I'm not really sure how much that really works in Mexico, but knows that your auto body parts and the dealership service department always has like a van or a pickup or something that you always see tooling around town that has all of their dealer logos with all of their brands. This is it's a pickup truck with Chevy, GMC, Cadillac, Oldsmobile. Well, there's no Oldsmobile anymore, but Cadillac and whatever on it from your local dealership, and they haul parts out to like the independent repair shops and independent body shops and things like that. That's what this was originally. It was like a 1950s, 1960s dealership service van. And then this version also has decals in it for a French postal service. I'm not sure that was necessarily in the kit, and I really don't care enough to pull mine out and look at it. But this is going to have now a service, like roadside service or dealership service thing, and it has a Renault logo that's basically on a pair of stands that goes onto the roof of this thing. So it has that new tooling in it. Both of those are going to be October releases. So if you do want a DS21, you do have somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 months to scrape together your money to pay for it. But those are finally now that DS21 has been trailing around Ebro since the 2000 and what I would say is 2017 Nuremberg Toy Fair. So it's been being drug around for a year now. So finally, it's going to come out. And like I said, if you're interested in it, there is that. So we have the teaser that we started talking about, and that is going to be from BMAX. And this is the first, if I can pull it up so I can see it, the first legitimate test shot of the upcoming Lancia Delta S4. So this is their Big Mama Jamma Group B car. We've shown you the pictures of the Audi Quattro that is basically built for Shizuoka as far as the it being pretty much ready. They're talking about getting it out probably in May or June. Well, not May, but probably in June. And the same thing for that Porsche 935 Kremer K3, probably also a June, July release. This is a first round test shot. They're saying they hope to get it out in the third quarter. I don't know enough about this built shot to know what their issues were with it. So it's probably going to be late third quarter. So think, September, October. But it would not surprise me if this is more like a Christmas present to yourself type of thing. As you can see here, there are a number of removable body parts so that you can display it in a service way or as a, obviously altogether as a race vehicle. I believe they said this is going to be a Monte Carlo Rally livery. Now, Martini is the only thing ever sponsored this car, so any decals that are ever done for this thing are just going to be very, very minor variations of the Martini livery through the, 2.5 years that this car ran. This is a full detail kit, so this is BMAX's first full detail kit. This car has a little 4-banger in it that is turbocharged and supercharged. They managed to crank out dang near 1,000 horsepower out of this engine. The car has no rear bumper, so if you're looking at these pictures and you're like, where's the rear bumper? The car, as it ran in rally specification, did not have a back bumper. Basically, the mud flaps hang off of the back of the inner fender well. And should be interesting to see, how well this is received in Shizuoka. This is probably going to be the way it's displayed in just gray plastic on this little metal stand. The metal stand obviously is not going to come with the kit, so if you want to build a service vehicle, or build it in service spec, which is how it's being maintained, you'd have to put your own jack stands or whatever underneath of it. It'd be very interesting to see what the reaction is, based on the fact that everyone always complains that the BMAX kits are curbside and blah, 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 no engine, yada, yada, yada. Now, so this one has an engine. I don't know, it'll be the wrong thing. It won't be what people wanted. It'll be too complicated because the body panels come off. The excuses will fly, I'm sure. Again, no pre-order information on this. Third quarter, fourth quarter. Expect it to be more than a regular BMAX kit because obviously it has the engine in it. It is a very sort of a one run and done type of thing. I'm not sure, if they can really put out another version of this. I know there was a tarmac version and a gravel version, so there probably is like that transition that's maybe baked into this tooling. But like I said, Martini's the only Martini's the only thing that ever sponsored this Lancia, and obviously it had a very, very short lifespan after it started killing people. But it's very cool nonetheless. And if you're collecting the Group B rally cars that Bell Kits and Hasegawa and now BMAX are doing, you're coming into only a few things that are left as far as rally car options for Group B. The Rover, little itty bitty, I can't think what the heck that car is actually called, but Rover made a very small car that was turned into a Group B rally car. Peugeot had one as well. So the Ford RS200. That would be very cool to have in kit format. Been a couple resin versions of that, but that would be a very cool car to have as a plastic kit. So there is that. Something to look forward to in the future. Kit release-wise, we got a couple of the early... These were supposed to be April kits, and then they became May kits, and as it turned out, they both managed to plop out here on Monday. Happened to get a phone call from one of the local kit suppliers saying, hey, this kit came in. So I went and looked, and sure enough, both of them had come in. And they are both from round 2. They're both AMT kits, although one is nominally not. And that first one that is nominally not is this, the 1/20th scale 1992 Toyota 4x4 pickup truck. This is, of course, the old Lindbergh kit. Saw service as the Baywatch lifeguard truck. I don't believe that it has any of the actual parts from the Baywatch kit. Certainly doesn't appear to have the light bar and the headache rack to put the light bar on, or any of the lifeguard lifeguard equipment. If you're going to look at this kit at Hobby Lobby or wherever you can get your hands on it ahead of time, of course, flip the box over. Usually on the bottom of the box is the parts runner layout. I believe it does come with some of the off-road parts. It's obviously supporting the tube bumper, the tubular rear bumper on the box art. I believe it comes with the tailgate bed net. Remember when that was a thing? You'd have to be probably my age to really remember this, or older. Remember bed nets? You take the tailgate out of your truck and you put this nylon mesh net that was made out of like a ratchet strap material, and that was going to improve your fuel mileage. Yeah, that was a thing once, if you're too young to remember. Anyway, these 1/20 scale kits are pretty decent. I mean, they were state-of-the-art for the time. Back in the mid-1990s, they were as good as any Revell or AMT kit that was done back then. They were just the wrong scale. I realize they continued to be the wrong scale, but now this is the third or fourth of these 1/20 scale Lindbergh kits that AMT has reissued. So, I mean, if you wanted to start collecting them to have, a 1/20 scale thing, there's also, of course, the 1/20 scale MPC van that was reissued, and the 1/20th also was another MPC kit, that AMC that was reissued as well. So I mean, there's 5 or 6 1/20 scale car kits floating around, and of course you build F1 cars, you have a whole bunch of 1/20 scale cars laying around anyway. So something to consider. Also out this week, which is the reissue of the 1970 Corvette LT1 ZR1. This is a mid-1990s modern, as I had to call it on Round 2's literature, modern tooling. And it's the most modern, one of the most modern kits that, AMT made. I want to say it was 93 or so, 92, 93 in there. I have the 72 convertible. I don't have this, which is the kit that they called me on. You can build this either as an LT1 or a ZR1. There's like a radio delete panel and a few other things in there, so you can build it as a civilian car or the more race spec car. It does have either pad printed or pre-lettered. I'm not sure how these Goodyears work on this because it didn't say exactly, but it does have the lettered tires, and it is molded in Ontario orange like the box art goes. Not my particular favorite choice of that, although at the same time orange is kind of it's not a white, red, yellow, or blue car, or black. So orange, I don't know. Maybe we can work with that. See if Gravity or any of the other paint color companies end up coming out with the appropriate actual orange. And of course, people who build the naked builds who just polish out their plastic, here's another one of those that you can work with. That'll take us overseas, over to Japan for the rest of these kit releases. Over at Aoshima, one restock. This is actually a May restock that came out, a day early, and that is a restock of the Liberty Walk R35 version 2 kit. This is the version that has the Super GT style spoiler, a different set of wheels, and a different set of livery, if you will, different set of Liberty Walk decals and sponsor decals for the sides than the powder blue one that was just reissued last week. So full restocks on your R35 Liberty Walk kits. Neither one of them, of course, are the 1.5 version that will be coming out in July. Also released this week in the, and this is a reissue in the Model Cars line, is the Honda Accord Wagon. I believe when this was listed originally, it was listed as the Wagon SIR. It's just a wagon this time. They do give you both sets of wheels and a few other little bits and pieces to build it, either as a 2.2 base model wagon or as the SIR performance sport wagon. I don't believe, at least from looking at the parts layout and the instructions, that it includes any of the Mugen parts or anything like that. So this is basically either a real basic strip down or the next tier above it, trim wagon. So 2 sets of wheels, base model and the SEER wheels included. It's an interesting conversation piece if nothing else. It's like a 1992 or 1993 Honda Accord wagon. It's been around. I have an original one of these from Aoshima from back in the 1990s. There were some that were carried by American Satco when they were the Aoshima distributor that had a resin left-hand drive dash conversion. And so know that this is JDM only. There is no left-hand drive dash with this. It is only right-hand drive. Those were resin pieces. Some of them they were better than others. I don't particularly care for the resin dash pieces that were done by Satco because, I mean, yeah, they're a conversion, but it's very... I have, what is it? I have a Infinity. I have an Infinity Q45 that has one of these American Satco dashboards in it. And the dashboard really shows its age compared to modern resin stuff. Let me put it to you that way. Then we have some stuff out of Fujimi. These are the last 2 of the April releases from Fujimi. First up is the Lamborghini Countach LP400 Black Hama Susuga Race number 12. You have to be specific about it that way because there is a Black Hama Susuga Race Lamborghini Countach that was done probably 2.5, 3 years ago now. This is another version of it, or a different later version of it, something along those lines. Within the Circuit Wolf series, this is the curbside version, so there is no engine or anything else like that. All those Enthusiast series kits were just reissued here in the last 2-3 months. This is just strictly the real sports curbside version that only has like 60 some odd parts in it. Also from Fujimi is this. This is the McLaren F1 road car. This has a Circuit Wolf 2 tie-in. So Circuit Wolf 2 was a later reboot of the series. I believe it was a TV show, cartoon type of deal. Straight reissue of the McLaren F1 car as far as what the kit is. The kit is not a bad kit, but it's also not a very good one. There's a number of little bits and pieces of the car that could have been done a great deal better. The doors are not functional, so they're either open or closed. They are separate. They don't fit that great when they're closed. It's just one of those kits that you wish they had put a little more time, a little bit more money into in terms of investment. Now, the other part of this kit that sort of is what it is the fact that they of course made a F1 GTR race car out of this basic same kit. That has just a racing interior put into it and some stuff like that. You see this a lot of times when Fujimi does these dual-purpose kits. We talked about it before. My Mercedes-Benz SLS GT3 car has the overhead consoles built into it. It has a rear window defroster on the black back glass and things like that because they didn't bother to tool up a new window for the race car kit or anything else like that. So, I mean, buyer beware. It's not the most. I mean, it's not unbuildable. It's not bad motorized nonsense, but it's just not as good a kit as it could have been. And then last but not least for this week is the modified reissue from BMAX, and that is the 1989 Tour de Course rally car. This has I want to say about 25 new parts tooled up for it. It has obviously new wheels. It does come with slicks, which I'm not necessarily sure is prototypically correct, even for a tarmac rally car. We'll have to go dig up pictures of this car in real life and see if it has treaded tires or slicks. But it does have the new, like, earlier 19 pre-evolution front bumper, front lip spoiler, back bumper, the shorter non-tiered spoiler. It has a side exhaust for the exhaust. The exhaust in the DTM car came out the back. This one has sort of an underbody out the side. I would call it NASCAR style, but it's not that beefy, if you will. It's just like a muffler with an exhaust pipe sticking out the side. It does have new suspension parts put into it to raise the body a little bit. Even as a tarmac rally car, the car is probably a couple inches higher than the DTM car is. The DTM car's wheels and everything tuck up underneath the bodywork to where the top of the wheel top is basically level with the leading edge of the lip of the fenders. In this kit, it is, there's some daylight between the tire and the fenders, so it is higher. It's not jacked up. It's not a asphalt, or not a gravel off-road rally car. They tried that out. It was really not very well suited for it. Very tail happy, so keep it on the asphalt, as it were. You'll notice in the picture of the box art there are several pieces of sponsorship livery missing. Those are Bastos cigarette sponsorships. Fear not, if you're willing to pay the extra little bit of money, there is this, which is the detail upset for the M3 rally car. Now, this has all your normal stuff that BMAX detail upsets have in terms of a photo etch fret. There's a little bit more seatbelt material here than you're probably used to seeing, because this is a rally car. So there is a passenger seat in this as well, plus the driver's seat. It has the air jack and the antenna. The photo etch things will replace several kit parts, including the tow hooks, the brake rotor faces, and those little vent boxes that are on the roof for the drivers and passengers could push up to let ventilation into the cabin. And then you notice there's a big white rectangle behind everything. That is your Bastos livery chopped up into pieces. I know Patrick loves that when people do that, especially when they flip half the word upside down like they'd like to do with Marlboro livery. Nothing is upside down in these decals from what I've seen, but they are spaced out, and they do appear to be like a big decal. So there will be a B, a blank space, an ST, a blank space, and then an S. So the A and the O are on another piece of decal, and it appears that all of that decal has carrier on it. And I'm just thinking that's going to look like, well, it's going to look pretty bad probably. So more than likely you'll have to sort of, cut the decals out, use them as a template, maybe, put a little marks on the body as far as where you want to line up the B and the S at, and then cut the letters out, right? You probably keep the carrier film between the S and the T in the middle of the Bastos, so those two letters are spaced out appropriately, and then freehand the B, freehand the A, put the ST on, freehand the O, freehand the S, and there are also the little logos. The actual Bastos has a logo with like a club symbol from a deck of cards in it. Those are separate. Like there's the logo and then there's the club that goes into it. I don't know if they think that's going to get them out of licensing, or maybe that's how you get around the tobacco ban that exists. But you do have to buy the photo etch set. Is it possible that someone will do Bastos liveries for this from, like, say, Taboo Graphics? Perhaps. They may look at that and think it's not worth their time, since the decals are technically available from BMAX themselves. But there are a number, probably at least a dozen liveries for the M3 rally car. Some of them do require you to go out aftermarket wheel shopping, because not all of them use the 5 spokes that come with this car. But I know for a fact there's going to be like a Czech rally livery that is almost the same car as far as the red and white goes, and it's Castrol sponsored instead of Modal Bastos. So I mean, that's obviously an option out there, and that's going to be from Rege Decals. So many, like I said, there's a plethora of decals already available for this car, because Renaissance ended up making a resin and photo etch trans kit to turn it into a rally car. And then, of course, BMAX announced that they're doing their own rally car, and I don't know how many those that Renaissance actually ended up selling. Probably a good deal in the first initial couple of months, because everybody wanted to make rally cars. But If you want to make a rally car and you don't want to spend the extra resin, well, now you have the option to do so. So anyway, guys, that wraps up this week. Next week is going to be Golden Week in Japan. Actually, today on the 30th is the first day of Golden Week. Everybody is off today in Japan, and then tomorrow and Wednesday, some things will be open, some things will be closed, and then it is a national holiday for 5 days afterwards. So starting Thursday through next Monday, everything in Japan is closed. So if you're trying to ship something out of Japan in terms of your HobbyLink Japan account or anything else like that, I know Hobby Search is closed as well. Be aware of the holiday. There's a chance that if you ordered something and shipped it, this goes for anybody in Japan. So I know Plaza Japan, which is Tokyo Hobby on eBay, a lot of people like to buy from that. Be aware that there are holidays. Be aware that the Postal Service doesn't work on the holidays. So if your stuff doesn't get out in the 2 days that everything is open this middle of this week, there's a chance that, of course, it will be delayed until next week. So don't freak out. I'd love to have the Japanese holiday schedule for as many federal holidays as we get here in the United States. Japan has probably twice as many, or at least it seems that way anyway. So there's always at least one Monday they're off in every month, and then they have these big week-long holiday breaks in the summer and the spring and the fall anyway. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys on the other side.